And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the always pressing PGA DFS podcast, kicking off the 2019 PGA Tour season, previewing the Sentry Tournament of Champions. You can find me on Twitter at BDintric, and my co-host, as always, on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods. Jesse, how we doing, man?
I'm doing well, dude. A happy new year to you and your family, Bubba, and happy new year to all our listeners and followers out there. We appreciate your all support, and we're ready to keep it moving in 2019.
You as well, my friend. Happy New Year's, and I hope you had a happy holiday season. It's been nice to have a little break. We had our little podcast in there for previews and your boy Cheney and all that fun stuff, but it was nice to have, a couple weeks or whatever to kind of just decompress. We still text each other and have fun, but it was nice just to kind of let it go for a little bit.
Yeah, it is, man. I mean, golf's a grind. I mean, we're basically getting ready to get into 35 straight weeks or so of golf. I mean, it's not going to be over with until really August. The schedule's changed around. I'm not sure 100% on the schedule, but either way, we're going to be grinding for the next eight to 9 months.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun stuff coming out at the Sports DJs like we did last year. You guys like the golf content quite a bit, so we'll keep that rolling. But most importantly, we'll keep this podcast going for each and every week there is an event, and hopefully sneak in some fun stuff here and there, however it comes to be. But we want to thank all you guys for listening and rating and review, all that good stuff. But let's get into it. We can real briefly, it happened a few weeks ago, but we can touch on it if you'd like, Jesse. I don't have too much to say about it, except John Rahm actually showed up in the event with some big boys, but he takes down the Hero Challenge. Anything else you have from that event?
Our boy Tony was second. Other than that, I mean, Rahm, he won by 4 shots, and we'll get into a little bit here more, but I think that's going to put him into some big-time chalk territory this week.
Yep, I'm with you there. We'll definitely get into that because there are a couple guys that are going to be quite chalky because, as folks should know if you listen to this long enough, but if you're new, welcome. It's a 34-man field this week. And as Jess and I were talking about it beforehand, as happy as we already have golf back, if you've listened to this long enough, we do not like these small no-cut events. Like, that's a 70-man no-cut event's bad enough. 34, this gets a little rough. Yes, it's better than the Hero, but not quite the same. For those that don't know, there were 37 winners last year, but Justin Rose, Phil Mickelson, and one guy named Tiger Woods will not be playing this week. So 34 golfers, 10 people new to the field, which we'll talk about later. Before we get into all of that, though, Jesse, got some past event history for us?
Well, going back, is Rose isn't playing?
No, Rose, Woods, and Phil Mickelson are out.
Oh, really? Because I'm still showing him. Still showing Rose.
They should all be on DraftKings unless they got rid of some. But when they put the pricing out, it wasn't official till Friday that they were all out.
Gotcha. So Rose WD then.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. That's good to know. Glad you mentioned that before I started touting Rose. Yeah, past event history. Obviously, this is played in Hawaii. You have to win in the previous year in order to get in. That's the qualification. So it's the name has changed, but it's pretty much stayed at the same golf course, which I'm sure you'll get into here soon. It's Kapalua Resort. It's been there for a while. Last year, Dustin Johnson, he won by 8 shots over John Rahm. The year before that, Justin Thomas started off his 2017 season, but went by 3 shots over Hideki Matsuyama. Then he went on the next week to shoot 59 at the next island over at the Sony Open and win that golf tournament as well. Jordan Spieth was your 2016 champion by 8 shots over Reed. Reed won it the year before in 2015, playoff over Jimmy Walker. Other past champions, DJ's won this, in the past 2013. ZJ has won here. Stricker's won here. So just kind of most recent winners there.
Yeah, no, you mentioned some names there. They're not all bombers because the Plantation course at Kapalua, where they will be playing, it's wide open, and there's so many elevation changes there that you can there's been jokes on Twitter about Brant Snedeker's going to have 300-yard drives and stuff because you can bomb a ball. If people don't remember last year, he was on the 12th hole where DJ almost hit a hole-in-one on a par 4. He missed it by like a foot because between the wind, which is we're going to get into in a minute here, and just the elevation changes and everything, you can just grip and rip it. Brooks Koepka has come out and already said it's great when you don't even have to think about where you're hitting it pretty much. You just tee it up and grip and rip because the fairways are massive. His joke is you have 100 yards of fairways. It's probably pretty close on some holes. Like, they're not all that big, but they're rather large. Like, you have room to miss left and right and still be just fine. Sure, there is trouble out there, and there's no doubt about that. Some of the stuff's right on the ocean side and all kinds of other good things. But one of the big takeaways lots and lots of elevation changes. Also, lots of slopes. There's really never a flat spot in the fairways. There'll be some, but a lot will be angled. So that's where, if you remember DJ shot again, he hits it on the, I guess it'd be, if you're watching on TV, the right side of the fairway, and it hits a slope and kind of slopes down into the green. So lots of ways to go about this course. A lot of different angles you can take, approaches you can take. The bottom line is you can bomb it, but you don't have to be a bomber to be successful, because even if you're just a regular hitter like a Charles Howell III who's done well at courses like this, or the ZJ that won the Stricker, you're still only like 120, 140 yards out on most holes, so you're wedging it in. So that's something that's very, very nice. It's a par 73, but it's a weird par 73 because there's 4 par 5s, but only 3 par 3s. So those par 5s, as you know, in a no-cut event, on a course that's very friendly to scoring, it's going to come into play. Par 5 scoring will be very, very important here. Other than that, I'm not going to get into all the details, but the greens are very large. They're POAs. They're very slow. Some of the slowest you'll see on tour, but they're massively undulating. A lot of comparisons, that everything I read already is they compare the greens to Augusta. Like, if you remember some of the holes at Augusta, you try to hit a green on a certain spot because it's going to slope so much. One of the, I can't remember who it was now, quoted it. They'd have a 6-foot putt with the 1.5-foot break. It was stuff that usually is just easy for these guys. You actually have to think a lot, but they're slow, so you can work with them, so on and so forth. But if you're a very good putter, you're going to do very, very good here. That's why Jason Day's done well here, because as tilting as Jason Day can be, it's usually getting to the green is the headache with Jason Day when he's off. On the green, he's one of the better putters in all the sport. And when DJ's torched this course is when his putter's been lights out. So if a guy comes in and putts well, he's going to put up a very, very good score here because, like I said, very hard to get in trouble at this course. Other than that, the biggest thing is you're on the ocean, like I said, so watch for the wind. It can vary from event to event. Last week, PGA Channel, Golf Channel, had the final round on. It was windier than hell. But these guys can bomb it and play with it. Dustin was hitting like low liner drivers. It was ridiculous. But it's already scheduled to be pretty windy this week. I believe it's Friday's going to be around 20 to 25 miles an hour. The weekend's going to be 15 to 20. So there'll be differing winds off and on the entire weekend, which will make the course interesting. But reports are already coming in from people that have been practicing last week down there that even when it's windy, they're still going to shoot like 15, 16 under probably. So birdies will be there and very, very often. With all that being said, Jesse, what kind of key stats are you looking at this week?
I mean, I want guys who can hit it far. But like you said before, we looked at those the past winners, and it's not necessarily a key. I mean, a lot of this comes down to, I really think, just kind of what kind of work you've been doing in the off season. That's the biggest issue with this golf tournament in general is we're coming off a layoff here for most of these guys. And I know some of them played in the Bahamas a couple of weeks ago, but you still got another couple of weeks. You got changes in equipment going on this year too. And so it's really difficult to narrow it down. But I mean, if you're going to look at any stats for me in the past and this year again, I'll just look at greens and regulation, driving distance, some putting stats, and then birdie or better percentage, because obviously this is typically a birdie fest. So you got to have guys who can traditionally score pretty well. I'll look at those over more of a long-term type of deal than short-term, because again, the season really ended in September, and most of them have not played a full schedule or maybe any golf since then.
Yeah, some of them might have played in Asia, and that's about it. So right. They've been off for quite a while. Like you said, they're in years past, guys that did play in the Hero did play pretty well. But like you said, it's still a couple weeks off. To me, it's more, what were you doing? Heck, if you follow JT on Snapchat, he's been playing golf almost every day. So I know it's not competitive golf, but still he's getting his swings and he's hacking. They said Rory's been there for like a week and just hitting ball after ball after ball on the range. And he's one of the 10 new players at this course. And in years past, this course, for some reason, if you haven't played it, it's really tricky. Like I had a buddy play it over the summer when he went there on vacation with his family, and he said it is deceiving because the elevation changes. If you're not a big hitter, you see all this, like you have to cover a certain hole you tee off, you have to cover a big gap, and it looks like you have no chance. Then you hit it, next thing you know, you're like halfway down the fairway to the green because it's so eye deceiving to you. And that could be some adjusting for some of these guys, plus the wind, all that good stuff. But yeah, birdie or better, par 5 scoring. Bombers, I think, like you said, still do have an advantage because the closer you are, obviously, the better wedge you can put in a pro's hand, the better you're going to be. So a lot's like there. And then get that putting going, and you'll be able to rock and roll. Little fan share sports. We'll have more with these guys, hopefully, as the season goes on, as they're unveiling some new stuff. And I'm even trying to get used to some of the new adjustments. We'll stick to some of the old things. I'm not going to go too much into. I usually do the 3 and 6 event history. I'll get rid of those this week because, again, it's been a while for some of these guys. But just looking on last year's event, your top scorers, you had DJ won it, you had John Rahm, Leishman, Kazire, Billy Ho, JT, Bryson, Xander, and Brooks. Those are the guys that are still in this field this year. And we look at birdies, Dustin had 23 birdies and 3 eagles. So there's a lot you can do there. And Bryson still was a top 10 scorer last year. He had 21 birdies, no eagles, and 15 bogeys, but still got you 75 DraftKings points. So you want these birdies, and we emphasize it a lot, especially in no-cuts events. It's going to be interesting this year. One thing I do want to mention on this new fan share, and again, we'll get way more into it once we figure out all the details to it, but they're having a lot of new things, like you could go to colleges, countries, but they have a couple of deals, course form, and it gives you red light, green light, yellow lights. You got course history. According to FanShare right now, out of the guys in the field, the top 3 guys, the only 3 guys with green lights with course history at this place, Patrick Reed, John Rahm, and Dustin Johnson. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of different things you can break down, and again, we'll get into that later, but just wanted to mention a couple of the new things over there at fansharesports.com, as they're going to have a pretty crazy 2019 with all these new additions to the website. You been able to play with any of that yet, Jesse, or are you just still waiting?
I haven't gotten over there much. I checked it out a little bit, and it looks like it's going to be pretty freaking cool. So I'm excited to get into it and start checking everything out that they've got over there, and getting into golf again, man.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. Like, I'm barely even at the tip of the iceberg there. There's all kinds of cool, like, different deals for the lineup optimizer, all kinds of stuff. So we'll definitely go and check it all out when it gets rocking and rolling. With that being said, though, let's get into the DraftKings. Again, 34-man field. We can kind of pick our best plays. We can almost hit on everybody if we want, but probably don't need to hit on all of them. But we'll stick at 10K and above for starters here. You got DJ at 11,000, the guy that just owns this course of late. Justin Rose is out. You got Justin Thomas at 10.5 and Brooks Koepka at 10.2. So 3 guys over 10,000. Jesse, how do you look at this 3?
Yeah. So one thing about this golf tournament, obviously 34 playing, ownership is not going to be spread out. So when you're thinking about ownership, and I know that's usually a big question is, how owned is this guy going to be or whatever, you've got to take a stance somewhere. I mean, unless you're going to max enter some stuff, then you can spread out your ownership, or you can spread out your exposures to a bunch of different people. I do think that Dustin Johnson, he's kind of a double-edged sword because he's coming in with really not good form. He did not finish 2018 very well. He finished 30th at the HSBC Champions most recently. He did finish third at the Tour Championship back in September, but he just had kind of a lackluster finish. He didn't really look that great at the Ryder Cup. So will that depress some of his ownership? I don't know. I mean, his course history is ridiculous. Like you just mentioned it, like he's the course history guy. So I do like Dustin Johnson for that reason. I would really rather, though, go Brooks. I think he can just murder this golf course. He finished third here in 2016. Last year he played here. He was 34th, but he was hurt because I think he maybe played one more and WD'd, and then stayed out until after the Masters and took like 3 months off, and then just absolutely murdered everybody by winning the PGA Championship and the U.S. Open. So Brooks is my guy up here. I just feel like this is just like his type of deal, and like you talk about all the time, he shows up in these big events.
Big game hunter Brooks. I have no problem with that play at all, because even the big game hunting idea and finishing 34 last year, and yes, we've documented it many times. He probably shouldn't have played golf right then. I think there'll be some part of him that wants to show he could play a lot better here. So I wouldn't be shocked if he plays well. All 3 of these guys are in play because JT, he's like T22 a first and a T21. There's 3 events here. The thing with JT, as we know, on no-cut events, he can torch courses like this. He can be a birdie and eagle machine. So it's something to keep in mind. I think out of these 3 guys, surprisingly, JT might be the lowest owned out of the 3. As we go through the different list of guys, usually in a small field, you can almost go balanced and get away with it, or you can go stars and scrubs. The scrubs aren't that attractive here. So it's going to be really interesting. I think a lot of people are going to gravitate to balance, where you can maybe play these DJ, Koepka, Thomas guys, maybe try to play around to get 2 of them. I don't know. But it's going to be interesting to see how the builds go. They're all 3 phenomenal plays. I like Brooks quite a bit as well. But if I want to be different, I think JT is the way to go if you're going all the way up top here.
I agree with that 100%. Like I think JT will be maybe the least owned of anybody besides Jason Day above 9,000. I think Day probably will be lower owned than anybody else above 9,000. But the next two we'll talk about are going to be chalky. JT is kind of that pivot guy, and if he's been working on his game and he comes out firing, he is a past champion here. So and he's not been completely off. He did play in October a couple of events over in China or in Asia or whatever. So it's it's kind of pick your poison here. But last year, looking at ownership, Jordan Spieth was 10,900. He was the highest owned player of anyone in the whole field. So, and he was also the second highest price. Justin Thomas was the highest price. So it's hard to say, but I mean, I think all these guys are going to be 20%, maybe 25% plus.
No doubt. Not having Rose definitely hurts us there.
Yeah.
We got three guys in the 9,000s. We got John Rahm at 98, Rory at 96, making his debut here, like I mentioned earlier, and Jason Day at 9,000, who's played well at this course last three times out here, T12, T10, and T3, and coming in pretty decent form. What do you like in the 9,000 range, Jesse?
Well, I mean, obviously, Rahm, we already mentioned him, finished second here last year, coming off the win at the Hero. So he's got the form coming in. He's got the history of, being here last year or whatever. So I think, but the issue is just he's going to be highly owned. I do think that he will be 30, 35, maybe 35 or more % owned. So do you want to take a stand somewhere and fade him and hope that he finishes bottom 15? I mean, that might be something you want to do, but it's hard to when somebody's playing as well as he is. I don't really get necessarily the Rory chalk. He's the first time here. I mean, he just hasn't been that stellar, especially of late. He's played a couple of events. He played in November. He finished 21st at the Ned Bank Golf Challenge, whatever that is. HSBC Champions in China, finished 54th. I mean, nothing too awful crazy. And if it's a putting contest, like if it matters, that you have to be able to putt, can you rely on Rory? So I'm not a huge fan of him. And Jason Day, I to be honest with you, I don't get that price at all. I mean, I'm really surprised he's 9,000. I mean, he has top 10 here, 3 out of 4 tries. He finished 12th here in 2017, coming off an 11th at the Champions. I mean, he might be the contrarian play of all these guys up top here. I do not see a whole lot of ownership going to him. So if you want to take a chance at a big GPP, I would say take it with Jason Day.
Yeah, I agree. Rahm, I think, is a great play. I think he's going to be chalkier than chalk can be. Like, your stomach might not handle it. But he's a phenomenal play at $9,800. I'm not going to go too much more to that. He's coming in good, and it's a guy when his driver's off, well, he got a bigger fairway now. So definitely could play into Rahm's hand. I think people love Rory because you can bomb it here. I think that's what they like him for. I'll sit and watch. So it's either John Rahm or I like Jason Day as contrarian because, you'd imagine – some of these guys in the 8K should be probably priced over Jason Day, but at the same time, he is coming up in decent form. Again, just like similar to Rahm, obviously doesn't bomb it like Rahm, but his accuracy off the tee is the issue. But he can putt, and that definitely makes Day a very, very interesting contrarian play. In this field, he's coming in second in putting, small sample, obviously, but out of this whole field, he's the second best putter in this event. So at $9,000, I think that's a very interesting play there with Jason Day. Contrarian-wise, very, very nice. Now, $8,000, got a little bit bigger group here. You got Bryson, who might be the chalkiest of the entire tournament. I got Webb Simpson, Molinari, Xander Schauffele, Patty Reed, Cam Champ, and Gary Woodland, a very interesting 8K range. What do you like here, Jesse?
I mean, Bryson, I do like Bryson quite a bit. In this range or whatever, he can make birdies. He has played here before. He finished 26th there last year. Not great, but he's played it, so he's got a year under his belt. And obviously, really, it's hard to. He's got 3 wins in his last 5 events. I mean, in 2 of those wins were in just insane fields. At the beginning of the PGA Tour playoffs. So, I'll play Bryson and not really worry about how chalky he is. Other than that, I mean, I don't have a whole lot for this region. I guess Gary Woodland's okay. I'm interested to see how Cam Champ does this week. 8,100 is a lot for me to pay for him with some more proven guys below. Obviously, he can bomb it, but this is his first legitimate field event. So I think I'm going to take a wait and see approach. I don't know. I mean, it's just really difficult for me to pay up that much. If he was at 75 or so, I think it would be a little bit easier to fit him in and not be so worried about it. But what are you thinking on him?
Yeah, it's tough because we just mentioned, with Rahm and Brooks and these guys that can bomb it. Again, you don't have to bomb it here, but it fits his mold very well. He's proven he's not just a bomber. He's won on smaller courses and more accurate courses. It's interesting because if he's got his wedge working the way he can, we've seen him be putting really, really well early on in the season. He's not usually a great putter, but he's been putting really well, and he scores a ton of birdies. So at $8,100, it could be really interesting because it's going to be a birdie fest, and he's proven in some of these events, yes, they're not loaded by any means. This will be his biggest, competition so far. But, without a cut, he can put a lot of birdies on that board.
I agree. I mean, I think he's risky. That's my only thing. And, if he's going to be 30% owned because everybody's jumping on him now, it just might be the time to fade him and just lose all your money because you decided to take a stand. I don't know. Yeah. That's how I feel like it's going to happen anyways if I do that.
It'll be interesting because Patty Reed right next to him coming in really good form. All his work on the Euro Tour, second on the Dubai Championship. He's played really, really well here his last 3 times, a T6, a second, and a first. He always has a chip on his shoulder, and in a field like this, he's going to take it very seriously, where some guys might be going, oh, cool, I got a 4-day, golf excursion in Hawaii. You never know. Reed actually is going to want to win this damn thing. So he's very interesting. And then Gary Woodland at 8,000 surrounding champ. It's just Woodland's been coming in really good form. Again, taking some time off, so determine that form as you wish. But Woodland's a popular name, especially at $8,000, because I think in the fall swing he's one of the better targets, and everybody got to really know him. And I could see him getting some big ownership. So it will be interesting between Reed, Champ, and Woodland to see where that ownership goes in that low 8K range, because I think there's a lot of arguments for all 3 of them.
Yeah.
The other guys there in the 8K range, I'm kind of looking at, I like Bryson a lot. I think Webb's a very good pivot because the way his putting changed all of last year, that could come in really big. His last 4 events, a third, a T15, a T4, and a T6 coming in here. He hasn't played this since 2014, though, where he T3'd. So he's played well here when he's played here. Again, not the biggest bomber in the world, but doesn't have to be. His tee green game is very, very strong, and he's putting very, very well. So Webb at 85 could be a nice contrarian play. I like Bryson a lot, but could be a nice pivot off of Bryson as well. And then Xander's the same theory as Webb here. Xander's coming in phenomenal form. A T8, a T16, and a first in his last 3 events. Played it last year for the first time, T22. He can get off the rails at times, but overall, pretty good young golfer, $8,300 that I think is going to go way overlooked at this 8K range.
It just seems to me like he does well in these more tropical type of environments, if you want to put it that way, because he plays well over in Asia quite a bit, and obviously won the HSBC champions over there most recently back in October. So, yeah, I was just actually I was looking at Xander and getting ready to see what you thought about him. So I don't mind Xander either. Yeah,
I think Simpson and Xander might be your 2 ownership pivots in the 8K range. Obviously, in a field like this, all past winners, most guys before we get to 6K are going to be very usable. But I think Xander and Webb could be very good pivots. I do like Bryson a lot. I think Pat Reed's a really good play this week. I like Woodland, and then Champ's the interesting one. So if you play the ownership game, it could be one of those wait and see on these. But there's a lot to like in this 8K range, and that's also why I think people might try to go balance, thus making those 5-figure guys not as crazy as they once were. All right, let's get into 7Ks, where you got the likes of Paul Casey at 79, you got Bubba at 78, Leishman at 77, Cooch at 75, Aaron Wise at 75, Snedeker at 74, Keegan Bradley at 73, Chucky Three Sticks at 71, and Billy Ho at 7,000. I'll give you a couple real quick. I think Paul Casey is in a really good spot here at $7,900. He should be priced a little higher, in my opinion, because he had that rough go there with the back problems earlier. His last 4 events, he's T18 or better in all of them. He hasn't played here in a long time, though, so keep that in mind. But very good stuff with Paul Casey at $7,900. One of my favorite plays is Mark Leishman at 77, coming in great form as well. He won over there in Asia, T18 in a second. He played here last year with a T7. If it gets windy, Mark Leishman can play that very well in the wind. Those Aussies play really well in the wind. If you remember that event in Asia, it was windier than hell, and he was just torching that golf course. So I think Leishman at 77 is a very, very good play, at least in my opinion. If you want to play the win narrative, Snedeker at 74 is also in play for you. And the other guy I like here is Billy Ho at $7,000. He finished the year really, really well. His ball striking, his tee degree game was outstanding, and he was putting it pretty well. The events he didn't do as well. His putter went to shit. But T11 here last year, he's T6 here as well. I think there's a lot to like with Billy Ho at $7,000. When it gets to the lower price guys, I think he's got tremendous upside. So what I like here a lot is Casey, Leishman, and Billy Ho are the three guys I'm really targeting in the 7K range. What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I definitely like Casey. I'll use him. Leishman is so last year. Brendan Steele was the second highest owned guy on the slate, and he was actually the highest owned in the $1,500 by a lot. Like he was 63% owned there, but I mean, so 36% owned in the $7 like max, 150 max or whatever. So Brendan Steele was the second. Chalky's got 7,400. I think that will be Leishman this year. I saw Fanshare today tweeted out asking if, Leishman was the early chalk, and obviously they've got their finger on the pulse over there as far as who's getting touted highly and all that kind of thing. And it must be Leishman. So I see where you're coming from. That could be a place to pivot, if that's what you're looking to do and kind of get some lower ownership on somebody else. Leishman would be the guy to go off of, but I see why everybody likes him too. He's in good form coming in, so it makes sense to me. I do think Aaron Wise is interesting. I did see somebody say that basically that nobody's ever won their first time over here, but he's coming off a 10th, a 15th, and a 15th in his last three starts. The 10th was most recently back in November at the Mayakoba. So at 7,500, I think I could stomach him. And I don't know if you saw his pictures where he's been working out.
He's jacked up.
Dude looks big. Dude looks like he's ready to go. So I think Aaron Wise is a really good play at 7,500. What about Charles Howell at 71? You got anything for him?
It's interesting. His last event he played in, he got that big W. He hasn't had in a while. He hasn't played here in a long time, but he's played well at Sony. So he doesn't. It's not like Hawaii scares him. It's interesting with Chucky. Like, he's not going to overly do it for you, but I guess, if it was a cut event, I'd be all over him. I just don't know if he has enough birdies in him.
Well, what I'm thinking is the correlation between, like, he always plays good on the West Coast.
Yes.
A lot of POA greens out there. We got POA greens in Hawaii. So just wondering if there's a correlation to that. It might be something to look into. If you've got Fantasy Golf National or whatever, if you want to look at some POA stats or whatever and see how well he actually does put on POA, that would be the thing that I would do.
You can do that on Fanshare now too.
Oh, on Fanshare. Okay. All right. Fanshare's got it as well. Awesome. So either way, maybe check that and see if that's actually a correlation or if he's just a early season guy that doesn't ever really putt that great. Billy Horschel I can deal with as well. I'm with you on that. But so for me, really, it's going to be Casey, Wise. And I'm looking a little bit more into Charlie. 3 sticks there, and I think he might be a potential like low owned GPP dart type of thing, but
he'll be extremely low owned. So I don't hate that at all. Do you have any thoughts on Keegs at 7,300?
I don't really ever have any thoughts on Keegan Bradley. No, he did finish 4th here in 2013 and 16th in 2012. He's got good form, quote unquote, coming in. Obviously he's a ball striker. I mean, it's just a matter of, can he putt average? And he did for the latter part of last year. So another guy who, you might take, if you're playing, 10 lineups, you might take 2 or 3 with Keegan or maybe 1. Yeah,
I think like the Bradleys and the Howells could be good lower price, low owned guys, because as we get in the 6K range, it gets ugly. You got Kevin Na at 6,900. You have Poulter at 68, Piercy at 67, Putnam at 66, Tway at 65, Garnett, Merritt, Kazire, Michael Kim, Andrew Landry, Kadire, and Ted Potter Jr. at $6,000. So there's a lot of ugly stuff here. Putnam, Tway, Garnett, Kim, Landry, and Kadir, first-time winners. So, yeah, what do you like down here?
Well, so there's a couple guys that I can get behind. Poulter, I'm gonna get behind Poulter just because he's my boy. And everybody else hates him, but he's my boy, so I'm gonna get behind him now. He finished 9th here in 2013, and in 2011 he finished 6th, so he does have some course history, 2 top 10s, coming off of 21st at the HSBC Champions. Tway, I think, is interesting. 6,500, never played here before, but obviously had a really good fall swing where he got a win at the Safeway back in October. Balmer guy gets it out there. A guy who's showing up kind of high on my model, and I think it's because he's traditionally putts well, is Troy Merritt. He finished 18th here in 2016. He got his win at the Barbasol, which is which is a second tier event. It's the same week as the British Open this year. And he hasn't really played that great since, but this is one of those tournaments where a guy gets a chance, so he goes out there, he just swings freely, and his mind is clear, and he just goes out and plays really good golf for a week, and he could finish pretty high. So maybe that's Troy Merritt. Obviously, like I said, something worth checking into. Now, going back to Charles Howell, I'm actually looking at this right now. He's a little bit better on bent grass greens than he is POA, but he's still pretty good on POA greens.
All right, for me in the 6K, Poulter, I'm with you. That's one of my favorite plays down here, which is, I guess, favorite of the 6Ks is Ian Poulter at $6,800. Like that quite a bit. Piercy's interesting, coming in good form, and he can birdie it when he's on. And with wide fairways and everything, Piercy could be interesting at $6,700. Not in love with him by any means, but at this price range, he's a guy we've seen contend in like real events, not the Barbasol. So though Piercy at 67 is a guy I could take a look at some more. And then, guys like, I hate to say this name, Patton Kizzire is playing okay right now, and he's played well in Hawaii. So I'm not going to hate on that at $6,200, almost the bare minimum. It's not the greatest play by any means, but I don't completely hate it. Other than that, it's tough. Like your Troy Merritt thing, I get he played well here before. He can get birdies and bunches as well at $6,300, so you could look that way. But I think Poulter and Piercy might be my two down here if I need to go down here. But I'd rather not. But if you're paying up, you're going to have to. So it's kind of where I'm at.
Yep.
All right. Give me a couple of contrarian plays. We hit on them throughout the player pool, but let's recap again. A couple contrarian plays you think would be good targets.
Yeah, Day, I think, is going to be a good target, and also Aaron Wise.
Yeah, the couple I mentioned are, I think, JT, just in that top area, and then Leishman and Webb are two contrarians I'm kind of looking at this week. I think a couple chalky guys you're looking at.
I think Brooks will be chalky. Bryson as well. Those would be my two up top, and then if we get down further, I think Leishman's going to be chalky, so it'd be my lower.
We shall see.
Chalk guy.
I got DJ and Bryson as the chalk guys for sure in that higher area. All right, who do you think busts? Who do you think just the higher price guys, like maybe let's say 8K and above, that just completely shits the bed?
Yeah, it's obviously. I mean, what's the definition of shit in the bed? I guess finishing like maybe back into the field.
Doesn't match up to his price, basically.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I have to say Rory. I have to see him before I believe that like he's figured it out and he's ready to go out and play some really good golf and be able to swing the flat stick.
Yeah, Rory's mine as well. So we'll be unanimous on that one. Early looks here. Give me like a 3-man core that you like to build around this week. Yeah,
Brooks, Bryson, and Wise will be my guys.
Yeah, I'm looking at JT, Woodland, and Leash. That's where I'll be starting with. But I like Brooks a lot, so it's a toss up between JT and Brooks for me right now. All right, who do you got winning this thing?
I'm gonna go with Brooks. I'm gonna take the easy road.
Okay, you took Brooks, so I'll go off the board here, and I'm gonna go with Mark Leishman.
Ooh,
I'm really sold on this guy. I really am. I like what he's doing, but it could blow up in my face completely.
No, I mean, he does have really good stats coming in. He's third in my model on here, so.
In conditions and courses like this, I really like him in these kind of deals.
I'm with you.
We'll see. Like you said, I remember exactly the conversation on Brendan Grace last year. Now that you mentioned his name, I remember it completely. So
no, you mean Steele? Brendan Steele?
Brendan Steele. But then I remember one of these events was a windy course, and everyone wanted Grace.
Yeah, I think that was maybe like an Asian tour event because Grace has
Maybe.
never won over here, and I don't think he plays the Sony Open. But yeah, last year Brendan Steele was super chalky. Pat Perez at 8,000 was the third highest owned. Cam Smith at 7,600 was 32%. Fourth highest owned. Kyle Stanley was 6,800. He was 31%. So there was 5 guys over 30%. 7 guys over 20%. 6 guys over 20%.
And as we say, when you're building your lineups, don't be scared to leave money on the table. Jesse's documented that over and over again. We have one listener question for the week. Andrew Flaherty at Crown KC. That's K Crown KC. Rough idea, Jesse. DJ and Rahm's ownership.
I do think that Rahm will be the chalk. I would suspect him to be 35 to 40% owned. I could see DJ being between, and I would consider this low, between 20 and 25% owned.
Yeah, I think that would be low for DJ. If that's the case, I might pivot completely to DJ. Like in a field like this with 20 to 25% only owning DJ, like in reality, if he shows up and gives a rear end about this, he can torch this course.
We've seen for sure.
So yeah. It's like if it's only 20 to 25%, it makes you really have to rethink things. That's all I have to say.
No, I'm with you. I mean, and that's that's obviously a lot of people not using him. So, and the thing with this is any no cut event we talk about all the time, you have to get the winner in order to really have any chance at any kind of good cash or even a min cash, most likely, because unless the winner is just super like low owned in the single digits.
If it's Ted Potter Jr., you'll be okay.
If it's Ted Potter Jr., then we'll all need to rethink our process here.
We'll start Euro Tour next week.
Yeah. This is one of the tournaments, though, where like most people realize to leave some money on the table. So not 80 to 90% are using 49.7 and above. So you have to really kind of get even more different if you're trying to miss the dupes. But 34 guys, it's not like the Hero last week.
And the last thing I wanted to ask you, since we covered the Sentry, we're over that now. It's gonna be fun to have golf and at night, after football and everything, playoff football, you can finish it up with some golf. Did you hear your boy Appy Barnwright is joining the PGA Tour full time?
No, I did not.
I heard that this morning, and I heard I figured you'd be very excited about that.
Oh man, yeah. No, that's awesome. No, I had not heard that. I'm glad though. I'm very glad. Love to see him be able to lose more money on him this year. That'd be great, I think.
I'm looking forward to seeing the clouds of smoke all over the United States terraces. That'd be great. It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be out there just burning down and probably cussing and whatever his native tongue is. And yeah, it'll be great, dude. He's awesome. He's a fun golfer to watch. And I think if he gets on the PGA Tour and like has a more consistent schedule, he will get better and be a really, really good golfer because he can really stripe it.
Yeah, no, and we've seen him play really well. It's just kind of the inconsistency. Because, like, just think about it: flying to the U.S. to Europe, all over Europe to Asia, wherever he's all the time. It's kind of wear on a boy, especially a big boy.
Yeah. Well, the Euro Tour itself is a grind because they're playing in Africa, they're playing in Europe, they play in Asia. I mean, there's a lot of travel on the Euro Tour period. Obviously, you're doing that in the United States, but you're only flying from coast to coast, so you're not flying 6, 7, 8 hours one way.
Yeah.
So,
for sure. Well, it's cool. I heard that. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Now we got another. We have our podcast as the podcast keeps growing. This will be the start of our. Technically, we're like 1.5 seasons in, so this will be like the start of our second full season on the tour, and it'll be pretty interesting. Because we embraced Paul Casey and we embraced Tommy Fleetwood. We had Molinari. And it just keeps growing. There's more and more. Obviously, Tony Finau. Can't forget Tony. There's a lot that we embrace, and the Barn Rats I know is your boy, but it rubs off in the podcast. So,
it does.
I'm looking forward to it.
No doubt about it.
All right. With that being said, we'll wrap it up this week. Again, you can follow Jesse on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods. I'm on Twitter at BDintric, and the podcast is at Always Press DFS. One final thing, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. I will mention it at the beginning header before we start the music to the podcast. You have a couple more days to sign up for the Junkies League. It is a ton of fun.
Yep.
Jesse, you got any details on that real quick?
Yeah, it's just $50 for the season. You get into a you get added into a DraftKings league, then it's $3 a week. Obviously there's payouts on DraftKings every week, and then the $50 goes towards the season-long payouts, and then there's also segment payouts, and then there's also certain courses, certain tournament payouts throughout the year, majors and tough courses and that kind of thing. So a lot of different ways to win some money. It's $50 for the whole year, and then, like I said, $3. But we also have a free tournament we run every week. So if you don't want to pay the $3, you don't have to. You can still be in the season-long deal and get points added for that. So yeah, if you got any questions on that, or if you want to get in, hit me up, or at Kevin's Delight on Twitter. He's the main man. I'm just the kind of behind the scenes kind of guy who does some things. So we just got done with our Junkies football league. We ran that this year for the first time. That was a good time. So I finished just outside the money, just like I normally do. That was great. But yeah, if you're looking for some more action, way to stay involved, it does keep you involved the whole entire year because you're grinding every week, trying to stay in it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You can try to. I'm going for the crown after last year's finish, so it's coming. And go follow at Junkies Contests. Also, tweeting out all the info on that. You'll get the scoreboard updates. But Kevin just tweeted out, or Jesse did, one of the two of you, the sign up form, the rules documents, all the good stuff. If you have any questions after that, hit them up like you said. Yep. But it's a lot of fun. Come join us. The entry fees, I believe, close Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, Wednesday night, Wednesday evening, something like that. We just got to get the league. You got to get an invite to the league, then you got to get into a contest. So we have to close it, make sure that we get the contest field, and yada yada yada. So
cool. All right. With that being said, we'll wrap it up. This was the always pressing PGA DFS podcast, previewing the 2019 Sentry Tournament of Champions. Catch you guys next week.